I've lived long enough to know that time doesn't slip away quietly. It steals. It takes your youth, your strength, the faces you once saw every day. It takes in silence until one morning you wake up and realize the world has moved on without you. I was 88 when I felt it most. Friends I had known for decades were gone. Families scattered to the winds, busy with lives of their own. The house was quieter than I ever imagined it could be. But here's the strange thing about the years. They don't just take, they give. They leave you with memories so vivid they can light up the darkest night. They sharpen your appreciation for small moments. The smell of coffee in the morning, the sound of rain on the roof, the touch of a warm hand. In youth, you think life is about chasing big dreams. In age, you realize it's the small, quiet joys that carry you through. Once, my home was filled with noise. Children's laughter echoing down the hall, the clatter of dishes as we all crowded around the table, the hum of conversation that spilled late into the night. Now, the laughter comes only in memory. I've learned something about silence. It can be heavy, but it can also be healing. In the stillness, I've had the chance to replay moments I once rushed through. I can see my daughter blowing out birthday candles, my wife humming as she folded laundry, my best friend telling one of his terrible jokes. They're all gone from the room, but they're alive in me. That's the secret nobody tells you about growing old. You carry whole worlds inside you.
If you're still here, then you're meant to be. Subscribe to Elderly Legacy.
When you're alone at this age, routine becomes a lifeline. I wake before the sun, make a small breakfast, and sit by the window with my coffee. I watch the world wake up. Neighbors heading to work, the school bus stopping at the corner, a stray cat weaving between parked cars. It might seem uneventful, but in these moments, I feel deeply connected to life. The world hasn't forgotten me. I am still part of its rhythm, even if my role has changed. And that's something I've had to accept. Life is not about clinging to the role you once played. It's about finding meaning in the one you have now. In a small wooden box under my bed, I keep letters and photographs. Some are decades old, the paper yellowed and soft. My wife's handwriting still curves across the page, my son's first scribbles preserved in ink. On lonely nights, I take them out, not to make myself sad, but to remind myself I have lived a life rich with love. When the people you love can no longer stand beside you, their words and memories can still hold you up. These keepsakes are more than paper. They're proof that I mattered to someone once, and that someone mattered to me.
If you're still here, then you're meant to be. Subscribe to Elderly Legacy.
Out back, I have a small patch of earth where I still plant vegetables and flowers. My knees ache when I kneel, and my back protests when I stand, but I do it anyway. The garden teaches patience. Seeds take their time. It teaches hope. Every season brings a new chance for growth. When I pull weeds, I think about all the grudges I've had to pull out of my own life. Some were rooted deep, but clearing them made room for better things to grow. And maybe that's the truest lesson. Even in your final seasons, there's still room for beauty. Every morning after breakfast, I turn on the old radio in my kitchen. It's not just for the music, it's for the voices. The news anchor's steady tone, the chatter of the call-in show, the laughter of the morning DJs. I may live alone, but these voices fill the space like invisible companions. Sometimes a song from my youth comes on, and it's as if I'm pulled through time. I can see my younger self dancing in the living room with my wife, our baby asleep in the next room. Music has a way of unlocking memories no photograph ever could. When you're old, you learn to treasure those moments when the past sneaks up on you unexpectedly. It's like a visit from an old friend.
If you're still here, then you're meant to be. Subscribe to Elderly Legacy.
I have a favorite chair in the living room, worn at the arms where my hands have rested for years. From there, I watch the world. The neighbor's dog chasing squirrels, children riding bicycles, the changing of the seasons in the trees. It's a small view of the world, but I've learned that you don't need to travel far to witness beauty. Life happens in front of you if you're patient enough to look. In my younger years, I rushed through everything. Now I let the world come to me. And it's astonishing how much you notice when you're still. The phone sits on the table beside my chair. Once it rang constantly. Calls from work, friends, relatives, my children asking for advice. Now days pass in silence. I've learned not to resent it. When it does ring, I answer with joy, not bitterness. Even a short conversation is a gift. We older folks understand something younger people often forget. Time is precious. And a simple, "How are you?" can be the highlight of a day. I keep a notebook where I jot down what we talked about, so I can read it again when the house feels too quiet. A few times a week, I walk to the little store down the street. It's not just about buying bread or milk. It's about reminding myself I'm still part of the world. The cashier greets me by name. We talk about the weather or the baseball game. And for those few minutes, I'm not just an old man living alone. I'm a neighbor, a regular, a familiar face. Independence is a fragile thing at my age, and I hold on to it tightly. Every step I take to that store is a step toward dignity. When you're young, you measure life in milestones, graduations, promotions, weddings. When you're old, you measure it in moments. Sunlight through a curtain, the first sip of coffee, the smell of bread baking. Age slows you down, but that slowness is not a curse. It's a gift. I've learned to linger, to watch the steam rise from my cup, to listen fully when someone speaks. The world tells you to move fast, but wisdom tells you to move slow enough to notice you're alive. And I am. In my bedroom, there's a drawer I don't open often. Inside are letters, some written to me, some written by me, but never sent. There's a note from my mother, yellowed with age, telling me how proud she was when I got my first job. A letter from my wife, written when we were courting, where she teased me about my clumsy handwriting. Even a few notes from my children when they were young, spelling mistakes and all. Sometimes I take them out and read them slowly. The paper feels fragile, almost like the people behind the words. I run my fingers over the ink, knowing those marks were made by their own hands. Emails can't do that. Text messages don't have weight. These letters are proof that we loved, that we cared enough to sit down, pick up a pen, and pour ourselves onto paper. And when I'm gone, I hope someone else finds them and knows that I lived a life surrounded by love.
If you're still here, then you're meant to be. Subscribe to Elderly Legacy.
Evenings are the hardest part of the day. The light fades, and the house grows quiet. I make my supper, wash the dishes, and then the hours stretch out like a road with no end. When I was younger, evenings were filled with noise. Kids playing in the yard, a spouse in the kitchen, the phone ringing, the TV humming. Now, I sometimes sit in my chair with a book I don't really read, just listening to the clock tick. But I've learned not to fear the quiet. It can be a companion if you let it. I light a candle, put on soft music, and remind myself that peace can be found in stillness. Loneliness knocks, yes, but it doesn't always have to come in. On the wall in my hallway hangs a collage of photographs. My high school friends in suits and dresses, looking far older than we felt that day. My army buddies grinning in uniforms. Neighbors from the old street holding potluck dishes and laughing at some forgotten joke. Many of them are gone now, but the photos keep them here. I pause sometimes and say their names aloud, just so the air remembers them. We underestimate how much memory is tied to saying things out loud, how speaking a name can bring back the warmth of a shared moment. The photos remind me of something important. Life moves on, but the people you love stay with you in ways you don't expect. Sometimes they even smile back from the wall. Every winter, I wait for the first snow. There's something magical about waking up to a world turned white overnight. The street looks cleaner, softer, quieter. The sound of footsteps is muffled, and the cold air feels sharp in the lungs. I stand at the window with my coffee and watch it fall, tiny flakes dancing down like they have all the time in the world. It's a strange comfort, knowing that even after all these years, the seasons keep their promises. The snow will come, the flowers will bloom again. The cycle continues, and in some small way, I am part of it. When you're young, snow means fun. When you're old, it means memories. Sled rides with the kids, shoveling the driveway with your spouse, sitting by the fire afterward with red cheeks and warm hands. If I could bottle a smell and keep it forever, it would be the smell of fresh bread baking. It takes me back to my grandmother's kitchen, where she'd pull a golden loaf from the oven and cut thick slices for us while it was still warm. Nowadays, I bake sometimes, just for that smell. I may not eat much of it, I give most to neighbors, but the process brings me joy. Kneading the dough, waiting for it to rise, the soft hiss when it comes out of the oven. It's more than cooking, it's a ritual. Bread reminds me that simple pleasures are worth the effort. You don't need grand adventures to feel alive. Sometimes all you need is a warm loaf, a little butter, and the memory of a kitchen filled with laughter. Letting go is not the same as giving up. Letting go means you stop holding on to what can no longer grow with you. I had to release old grudges, unrealized dreams, and even some of the identities I carried my whole life. Wife, mother, employee. Those roles shaped me, but they aren't all I am. I started to see myself as a person first, not just a label. That allowed me to enjoy life as it is, not as I thought it should be. Letting go is freedom. Freedom to explore who you can still become, even in your 80s. In a world that often feels too big, too fast, I've found comfort in the smallest things. The sound of rain on the roof, the warmth of a well-worn sweater, the smell of coffee in the morning. These moments are small, but they're the threads that stitch peace into your days. When you live alone, You can choose to let silence be your enemy or your sanctuary. I chose sanctuary. I fill my home with smells I love, sounds that calm me, and light that makes the walls feel warm. That is how you make a house into a haven.
If you're still here, then you're meant to be. Subscribe to Elderly Legacy.
Aging means there will be days when your body says, "Not today." That's why I've learned to prepare, not in fear, but in wisdom. I keep a small freezer of ready meals, a list of emergency contacts taped to the fridge, and my important papers in one folder. Preparation is love, love for yourself and for whoever might step in to help one day. It's a quiet gift you give to the future you. So when life throws the unexpected, you're not scrambling in panic. You're ready. If you've lived over 80 years, you carry a library inside you. Shelves of lessons, mistakes, joys, and survival stories. I've found peace in sharing them, whether it's with a neighbor's child, a caregiver, or a stranger on the bus. Your story might save someone's day or their life. Never think you're too old to matter. Your voice carries the weight of decades. And when you share it, you remind yourself that you're still part of the world's conversation. In the end, survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about choosing to live. I've made peace with the empty chair at the table, the phone that doesn't ring as often, the quiet evenings. And in that peace, I've found joy. In the laugh of a neighbor, in a sunrise that looks just like the one from my childhood, in the fact that I'm still here to see it. When everyone leaves, you can still choose joy. That choice is yours, and it's the most powerful tool you'll ever have. So I choose it every single day. And I hope you will too.
If you're still here, then you're meant to be. Subscribe to Elderly Legacy.